Hey everybody, it's Carl Krenzel with Sell More Homes. Now I just wanted to share a couple quick tips with you today about how to find a buyer for your property. I mean, the truth is, in this market economy right now, we've got a lot of people who are buying properties, and the market in many areas is very hot. And when you think about it, you don't want to lose any opportunity that you get for a buyer. And so I want to just share a couple quick tips that I've learned over the 23 years of doing this business that might help you in ensuring that you keep the buyers that you do have. So if you're writing a note, I'd write down point number one: marketing exposure is critical. It's critical. I mean, the biggest thing I can point out to a for sale by owner, to a realtor, to a broker, investor, anybody who's trying to sell real estate, exposure in this selling process is absolutely critical. You have to let as many people as know possible about your property so that you can get the biggest amount of buyers to your property as possible, so you can get the most money possible. I wrote down literally dozens of homes, if not in your market, maybe even hundreds of homes, go on the market every single day. And that's why it's important that you take it very, very seriously when you do put your home on the market. In the internet world, you know, photos are forever. I mean, once they're out there, and it's really hard to go ahead and bring them back in. So make sure the photos that you take aren't just something slipshod. Make sure it's a good quality photograph about your property, and don't take photos that you'd regret later. And when you think about it, the exposure is not only digital that you put out in the world, it's the print areas, you know, it's a lot of things that you put out into the world. You want to avoid misconceptions, because people today are hypersensitive about lying or misconceptions or things of that nature. You want to make sure that people are crystal clear on what they're getting and why. That way there's absolutely no problems. I mean, when you're in person trying to show the property, you want to ensure that the home looks as good as possible. You know, when you're thinking about trying to sell your property in person, if you're trying to talk to your neighbors about your home, other realtors in the area, other investors in the area, you want to let the world know about your property as much as you can. So it's not only online, it's in person, it's also the print media that you use. You know, if you're for sale by owner, think this through. Be polite, for example, to the realtors that call. I get it. A lot of the realtors that call you sometimes are not necessarily really educated. Maybe they're not really nice. Maybe sometimes they're using a script. But when you think about it, these are the people who have access to the buyers you need. So take a minute and be nice to the people. You know, if you're trying to print, be sure that you put out a good photograph of your property so people remember it, and be sure that your print description of the property is brief. Don't go into lengthy paragraphs about your property, because the reality is people just don't have a lot of time to read it. Make sure you take the time to just simply put down the basics of what people need to know about your property. The second point I wrote down for you today is to price your home to attract a buyer, not to discourage a buyer. And it's really important you understand that. To price your property to attract a buyer, not to discourage a buyer. Here's what I mean. It's been my experience over the years, right, that a common technique that a homeowner or even some realtors will do, right, is to price the home in such a way that you'll maybe even have Zillow in part of this to figure out the value, and then you'll have yourself some wiggle room, right, to negotiate with. You know, there's a couple things you need to know about this approach. First and foremost, even Zillow will admit that their numbers are somewhat skewed. They can be off from as little as 4% to 12% in some areas. And when you think about it, if you're pricing your home according to Zillow or some derivation of Zillow, understand that those records that they have are not always the best, and you could be leaving a substantial amount of money on the table. The other thing to know about this strategy is when you're trying to price your home for wiggle room, you know, a lot of buyers, there's just so many homes, literally, like I said, dozens, if not hundreds of homes that go on the market in your marketplace every day. And every single day, they're getting electronic emails about new homes that come on the market. And when you think about it, if your home is overpriced because you want to save room for negotiations, right? Most buyers will just pass your home by because they figure you're not all that motivated to sell it. If you're truly interested in selling, you want to check the list price to sales price ratio in your area and find out what people are actually getting versus what they're actually asking for the property. Your realtor will be able to tell you this if they're halfway competent, and they can look it up in the multiple listing service. It's very easy to do. When you think about it, the price variations that you'll find in most areas across the country, I've sold real estate in South Carolina. I've sold real estate in Arizona. I know a lot of people from around the United States. Most of the people I know have told me that the price differentials that they're experiencing are anywhere from 3 to 5%. If it's different in your area, I'd love to have you tell me in the comments. Tell me what your area is like. I'd love to hear that. I wrote down, with so many homes on the market, buyers just do not have the time to just make an offer. A lot of sellers will say, well, gosh, the buyer will just make me an offer. They can just make me an offer and I'll talk to them about it. People don't do that. When you think about it, a serious buyer, somebody who's talking about spending hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, they're not going to be so cavalier as to say, well, just I'll give you X, Y, and Z for it. There's a whole lot of what ifs. On the day, the time, the method of financing, any concessions, there's a whole bunch of things that go along with that. So for a buyer to just make an offer is very unlikely. Almost any serious buyer I know doesn't do that. Point number 3, curb appeal doesn't end in the yard. Sorry, curb appeal does not end in the yard. I know a lot of people want to go out and spend a lot of time and energy to go ahead and get the property ready, make it look a certain way, and I think that's great. And looks are important. Do not misunderstand me. Looks are incredibly important. They're make it or break it in many cases, right? But make sure you spend time on the right things. I cannot tell you how many times I've gone to a listing appointment or go to a home to show it, and I press the doorbell, and the doorbell's, that little part of the plastic is broken. You got a $300,000 house and you can't afford a 50-cent doorbell ringer? Come on, what are you talking about? How many times have you been to a property where you've looked at the home and they got dog poop everywhere, or the house smells like cat urine, or there's clothes everywhere, or there's a bong in the living room, or water pipe, or whatever you call them, right? When you think about it, there's just so many times that as agents we've been in properties that just did not show right, and I promise you, those are the items that your buyers remember. I wrote down, you want to make it as move-in ready as possible. Okay, as move-in ready possible. And be careful spending money when you don't need to. I'd rather have you go out and spend, find a $200 faucet that's on sale that you get for $50 or $100. That's the kind of thing you want to do. You don't want to spend thousands of dollars on upgrades on property that you're probably not going to get that money back out of. So it's probably not a good idea. When you think about it, you want to, I always tell my clients, you want to have like maybe two wows and an O, right? 2 wows and an O. But when a customer comes in, this is the way buyers think things through. And if you're an agent, I'd love to hear your opinion on this. But the buyers that I've worked with over the years, typically what happens is when they come into a home, they'll see it and they'll say, oh, wow, I didn't know it had this, or I didn't know it had that, or oh, wow, look at that view, or oh, wow, look at this kitchen, or oh, wow, look at the pool. You want to have a couple of those oh, wows, right? When you're trying to sell your property, so people will remember that. And you want to have very, very few O's, right? What's an O? Well, an O could be like cat urine smells, right? I love this house. Oh my gosh, look at the view, look at the kitchen, look at oh, but that cat urine smell, right? You want to minimize those things because that's what your buyers are talking about when they leave. Yeah, when they're in my car or when they're down the street driving away to go see the next property, they have assigned a name to your property. Do you want to be the cat urine house? Or do you want to be that's that one house we like? Which house do you want to be? If you're a realtor, if you're a broker, I'd love to hear your opinions. Tell me what you found as some of the best tips that you can help to find a buyer for your special properties. I'd love to hear your comments. And as always, have a powerful sales day. Bye-bye.